When calculating profitability, specialty crop farmers must be vigilant in tracking costs, inputs, and production records to best calculate their farm profitability and make informed investment decisions. It's important for producers to first truly understand what they need to be recording, common mistakes when calculating profitability, and resources available to help. Today, we are learning more about the Hort Calculator created by the Purdue University Horticulture Business team. I'm your host, Morgan Hughes, and the South Dakota Specialty Producers Association is made up of growers, consumers, and others interested in producing, marketing, and supporting South Dakota specialty crops, meats, and locally made products. This podcast is made possible through a specialty crop block grant that SDSPA received through the South Dakota Department of Ag and Natural Resources. This season, our podcast, Fresh Bites, is talking about how South Dakota specialty crop producers can measure and increase their market garden profits. Thank you to Dr. Torres for joining us today. And to get started, can you tell us more about yourself, your team, and the Hort Calculator?
Yes, so my name is Ariana Torres. I'm an associate professor at Purdue University. I actually have an appointment in two departments. I have an appointment in agricultural economics and also the horticulture department. So basically, I work for both of them, trying to understand the market, and technology adoption challenges that specialty crop farmers deal when they're trying to address the different challenges and different opportunities in the market.
Wow, that's definitely important problems to be solving and thinking about. So as part of that, you and your team created this Hort calculator. Can you tell us a little bit more about the tool and how producers can use it?
Yeah, absolutely. So this tool actually started or the birth of it started when I started my position back in 2016. We started thinking about how can we support farmers to understand the different adoptions or the different technologies that exist. We know that there is a wide variety of irrigation, biological control, high tunnel infrastructure investments that growers have to do. And we wanted to understand, okay, how do we help growers assess, is this going to be worth it? Which is ultimately the question that we want to answer. What's the worth of a decision that a farmer may have to deal with? So it can go from different crops that you want to grow. Do you want to go from arugula to spinach or to kale or vice versa? Or do you want to change markets? Sometimes you start selling at farmers markets and then you transition into school districts or restaurants or hotels. So what is the impact of those changes on the profitability and the sustainability of the farm? We want ultimately to help farmers be farming, right? Like for a long time. So that's what we wanted to do. And we started working with melons back in 2017. We got a small grant to understand and develop an enterprise budget. So this started as an enterprise budget where you have an enterprise budget, usually a PDF or an Excel file where you have the different farm characteristics, and then you obtain the profitability of that farm system. However, the more we get into specialty crop production, we understand that every system is so different from the next. So we wanted to provide a tool that it's not static and it's not applying to just one farmer. Because if I'm going to start, let's say, working and I want to start growing tomatoes, I'm a new beginning farmer. And then I see an enterprise budget that is, this is the size of the road, this is the irrigation system, this is the temperature, and that doesn't fit what I have or what I want to do, then that enterprise budget has zero value to me. So we wanted to create a tool that can adapt and actually be tailored to any farm system. So that's when the idea of TurboTax, a hybrid between TurboTax and an enterprise budget came, which I called an enterprise budget with steroids. It's basically a tool. Right now, it's a website where farmers can enter their own information. And for example, what is their yield? What are the expenses on fertilizers, on pesticides? How much they spend on labor? How much they spend on water? And what was the expense at any point of the life of a infrastructure or a machinery or any equipment, what's the use of that for this specific crop? So we wanted to tailor everything to the farm, however it looks like. And we were looking into, okay, what are the outputs that we can provide farmers with? And one of the things that we're really proud is, okay, we go back to the typical profitability. We can understand by crop what is the profitability of the entire crop, and also by acres or by square feet, depending on what crop it is. Some crops you measure by acre if you're a bigger farmer. Some, if you have a high tunnel, you're gonna measure by square footage, right? So what we wanted to is tailor this. So we started with a profitability assessment, and then we then transition into, wait a minute, we can also understand the cost structure. Why understanding cost structure is important. So let's say you're going to hire more people because you have a bigger farm, or you're doing some hand harvesting or hand weeding or hand fertilization. So when you are changing how your money goes, where your money goes, you can understand, well, that's the impact of these investments. So a very nice example is biological control. We have a big project on understanding the economic impact of adopting biological control. So one of the things that we are able to do is, usually when you start applying biocontrols, you tend to spend more on labor, because you have to do scouting, you have to do releasing, you have to do, I don't know, fixing things or maintaining your biocontrol healthy and stable. Is that additional labor actually going to impact your profitability? Your farmers usually don't take that into account, because you're thinking, well, I just need to spend more on labor. Well, where's that labor coming from? And that takes me to a point that this cost structure, it's also for investments, right? Like if we are investing on a high tunnel or a greenhouse or an automated harvester or a seeder, that investment is going to change how much money I should have on a monthly basis, or sometimes on a daily basis. It's going to impact my cash flow. So we are able to tell you, okay, what is the cost structure if you do this? If you're going to do this, what is that the change of your potential cash flow? And then we go farther with sensitivity. So sensitivity is basically understanding how different changes in the market and in my farm impact my profitability. So right now we have sensitivity for prices. So prices is the main indicator of the market I'm getting into. Usually when you are selling in farmers markets, you tend to have a different price than if you start selling to an intermediary or a wholesaler or a restaurant. So what would the impact of these different changes in different market prices impacting your profitability? And then we also understand the changes in cost. Sometimes you're going to spend more on fertilizer. So there's a drought, or there is a pest that you have to spend more money on. That means we can tell you, okay, these are the different market changes, these are the different scenarios. What is the impact on your profitability? Then we go farther because we have the data, right? And then we're like, well, what else can we do with this? We can do break-even analysis. And I find it fascinating that break-even has been one of the most interesting tools that we've actually helped, because farmers know, okay, this is how much money I'm gonna make. Changes may or may not occur, but what is the minimum price I can afford? Usually that information is not available if you don't have, well, we need data. I'm going to get into the data that we need from farmers, which is a barrier, honestly. But with the break even, we can tell a grower, hey, this is the minimum price you can afford to charge to cover all your costs. Why is that important? Because one, you want to understand, okay, sometimes you get into a new market, or you see that everybody at the farmers market, it's lower in prices. And you're wondering, should I sell my tomatoes for $2 instead of $3 per pound? With this tool, you have the certainty and the confidence that any decision that you make, you know the impact of it. If you know that the minimum price is $1.90, you know you can sell it for $2. Why? Because you're still going to cover all your costs. So you can address your marketing strategies based on real data, on real time data. So that with that, we have the break-even price, we have the break-even yield, which is how much should I sell to cover all my costs. What is the minimum threshold to cover everything? And the break-even yield is it's really interesting because sometimes farmers don't sell everything they have, right? Sometimes some food goes into the landfill, or sometimes you are donating things. Well, you can know for sure if that donation is actually impacting or lowering your ability to pay your expenses. And lastly, we have two different scenarios that were developed just for biocontrol, and that is the return on investment and the benefit cost ratio. And I can go farther once we get deeper into what is this tool doing. But again, just to answer your question, started in 2017, it has been transitioning slowly into a tool that we hope is going to help farmers feel more safety and confidence that you're making decisions that are going to be profitable and are going to keep you farming for a long time.
It's fascinating how many different situations it can apply to between the size and scale of different farms and all of the different reports and analysis that you can pull from the data. One of the things that is particularly interesting to me is how the tool allows producers to break down the profitability and their finances by crop.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious if you can explain a little bit more about the importance for producers to look at their profitability of one crop versus their overall operation.
Yeah. So one of the things that we've been trying to do is to apply for grants that can incorporate different crops into the system. So we have different tools for melons. We have turf grass. We had a big grant in 2020. We know that the turf grass industry is very important in the country. So it's a specialty crop. It's considered a specialty crop. And we wanted to help the turfgrass industry, so we got a grant to work on that. We have that right now. We're working on leafy greens, so any leafy green can be used, or any data on leafy greens can be used for the tool. Our goal is to. We're also getting more grants into different specialty crops. Tomato, we have a smaller tool for tomatoes that we can adapt to any farm system as well. One of the constraints for faculty to develop these tools is that we're not for profit, right? We're not trying to make money out of this. This is going to be a free tool. So all we rely is from grant money. So my hope is to get more grants. I'm constantly applying to grants so I can add more crops to the toolbox that is a Hort calculator. So right now we're limited about 6 to 7 crops, and then leafy greens can be and many crops actually, but so then we're limited to the number of grants that we get. So one of the things of analyzing a whole farm system, ideally that's their hope, that's our hope, to get a tool that you can say, okay, I'm going to grow tomato, carrots, onions, radish, lettuce, and peppers, let's say, and you can pull all that information together. So right now, because of the grant situation, we're focusing on different crops that, one, are critical for the country, and two, we're able to get grants for. But we just submitted 3 grants to get help beginner farmers understand the different crops that they choose, primarily in the Midwest. That's the other thing. We're going by region, right? Um, but besides that, I think it is important to uh, talk a little bit about the data that we need. So we call it data, but it's basically inputs and outputs. So how much money, how much harvest did you achieve on that crop? How much you spend, how many hours on labor, how much money you spend on this or that. It's usually something that growers may not want to invest their time on. So we have found amazing growers who keep all the data and they've been tracking all the records. Um, and there's some growers don't, because let's be honest, they're really busy working, and time is very limited. So we asking them, hey, you need to record this information. It's actually a very it's a very time consuming task. So one of the things that we're doing is trying to help farmers understand, okay, some data, it's better than no data. some information, some records is better than no records. And we're providing different examples of what a farmer would look like if they had this information. We're putting together different webinars and different videos, Q&As, and YouTube. We have a YouTube channel where we have videos and webinars that we've conducted. They're recorded for anyone to go and watch anytime and share. And the idea is to assist that process of, before we get into the analysis, what do we need to gather to do the analysis, right? So what we want is to, again, implement more crops, but let's start with what do we need from every crop to get to the point that we can analyze your situation. And the idea to analyze per crop is really interesting because sometimes as a farmer, you may have a crop that is actually your moneymaker, right? Like, what is the most important crop that you're going to make more money? And sometimes some crops don't make money, but you have to grow them because you have to have the diversity, especially if you're going to a farmer's market. So we're trying to juggle all these situations and provide a tool that can actually be helpful for growers.
So will eventually the calculator will basically be able to help producers figure out that blend pricing between the ones that are profitable and the ones that might be the ones they're growing for diversity, even if they're not
Yes.
profitable. Nice.
Yes. Yes. And sometimes you have to, I think that decision to make a decision of what crops am I making more gonna make more money and what crops I'm just going to go with it. That is a result, that is a report that we can provide to growers right now. We can tell them with this crop at this price, we're just gonna cover your cost. With this crop, you can go a little bit higher because the pricing strategy is a common, and we have a lecture on pricing strategies on the YouTube channel where we talk about, okay, pricing is not a linear static factor. It's actually a very changing factor depending on a lot of things. So what that the tool can help you understand that for sure.
That's great. One of my questions was, aside from leafy green production, which is your product right now that you're kind of working on, or the project you're working on right now, um,
Yes.
but what other specialty crop farmers might find this tool helpful? You've gone over this a little bit already with your tomato and pepper and melon examples, but just if you want to add anything else.
Yeah, so we're looking to get. So I have a student that we just submitted a grant to get information or to get funding to gather the different pieces to work on the top 10 crops that beginner farmers grow. So we're interested to help beginner farmers, or my student and I are interested to help beginner farmers to grow, to start with the right food off the door. So what are the top 10 crops? I'm guessing we're going to have an overlap between tomatoes, leafy greens, carrots. We're going to have different kinds of tomatoes because every kind of tomato may have different fertilization, irrigation schedules. We're also thinking about carrots. Sometimes green beans are important microgreens. So the top 10 crops, we're going to try to gather what are those top 10 crops. We're submitting a grant for for mint. So I'm interested, and in Indiana, mint is very important. So we want to understand what is the impact of mint decisions, especially if growers are also distilling mint oil. We have melons, tomatoes. We have cut flowers. Cut flowers are very important. It's a very important crop in different for different segments of growers. So I've been working with cut flower growers to understand, okay, how does my cut flower production? And we can go to the crop level, or we can go to a very general level of this was my yield, and this is the price that I got for that yield. This is how much I spent on fertilizer, pesticides, herbicides. This is how many hours I spent on labor, because we don't need to have a specific crop. If you have all the information and all the records, right? We go by crop because sometimes you want to understand a crop. But if you have all information on how much you spent on rent, if you're leasing land, or how much you spent on labor, or how much you spent on different aspects, we can tell you all these break even. However, break-even sensitivity matters per crop because let's say an investment, it's an investment for 2 to 3 crops. So how is that impacting their specific crops? But we can do it at the farm level if that's the necessary output too.
Think it's interesting to hear about what crops are very popular and important of the parts of the economy in different areas. Some of the
Mhm.
really popular ones in South Dakota lately have been like mushrooms, microgreens, and cut flowers have just been popular. You were talking about the data being important, and producers need to have that data before they really can look at the full picture. So sometimes you go to the crop. And I'm curious what a common mistake that you see or what advice you might have for specialty crop farmers that are working on improving their production records and
Mhm.
their profitability calculations.
Yeah. So I think the common misconception, I would say, or the common thing that farmers overlook and understanding their profitability is labor. Usually, a grower may think, I don't, it's just me or my wife, we don't spend money on labor, right? And what that is a very important misconception because usually labor tends to be the most expensive input that you have. So the fact that so if you want to understand the true cost of a product, you need to track the hours of labor. So ideally, you would understand, okay, we work 3 hours putting up the bed, 2 hours planting, 3 hours weeding, fertilizing, 2 hours. Okay, we're summing up to 40 hours. One thing that I ask growers when they say, well, it's just me and my wife or me and my kids, is what happens if hopefully it never happens, right? But you get sick and you need to hire someone, or you have a trip, or you want to take vacation. You need to hire someone who's going to perform those activities. So understanding the cost or the time invested in activities, that is what the labor makes it so important, especially because labor is usually the most important barrier for any agricultural production. So the idea is just simply track the hours and then you can eyeball it, right? You don't need to be 10.35 hours, rather say about 10 or 11 if you want to be more conservative. Usually we ask, okay, how many hours you spend on bedding, weeding, planting, harvesting, marketing, like taking it to the markets. So these number of hours you can eyeball it to understand, okay, what is the true cost that is what's all the effort and all the passion that I'm putting on that tomato to take it to the market? What is the true cost of that? The other thing is confusing revenue with profit. So growers tend to think, oh, I made $1,000 or I made $50,000 on this. That's the money I made. And actually, that's the farthest from the truth because you have expenses, right? And even if you had those inventory, even if you did not spend on hiring labor, even if you had free manure, those are expenses that need to be taken into account. So you have a true price that is actually going to reflect the value and passion and work that you put in your production. So that is a very misconception. We have these in our videos, we have a lot of content about what is the difference between profit and revenue. How do you calculate variable versus fixed cost? Actually, we don't ask growers on our tool to calculate them. We just ask them, how much did you spend on this? And then we calculate it for them because it is important for us to understand. And we're also releasing, and before I forget, we're releasing a guidebook to help growers step by step using the tool besides the videos.
Wow, that's awesome. I was watching some of the videos when I reached out to you and just preparing for this, and there was a lot of great information on there. Um,
There's a lot of content. I have I actually have 2 more mistakes, if you don't mind. I don't know if we have time.
oh, absolutely. I'm sorry to butt in. Yeah, I'm excited to hear that.
Yeah, so one thing that I also have seen growers is like they try to understand the whole farm. So they track things, they track records at the whole farm level. And what is the problem? It's because a specialty crop farm is not just one business. right? You have different businesses. So you may grow tomatoes. You're gonna go lettuce and you're gonna go garlic. They're all different business. So understanding how each crop impacts your profitability and your overall financial stability, it's very important because you will quickly understand that a bed of fast growing radishes may be more profitable over a season than a bed of slow growing heirloom cauliflower. Even if the cauliflower sells at a higher price, having a crop that grows faster and you can sell it at a relatively good price may be even more profitable than just growing a high value crop that only grows one. So that is a very important thing. And that's why we're focusing on crops. And the last one that I have is setting prices based on what others charge. This is a very common, I think, misconception that growers are doing, especially if they're selling at farmers markets. Because when you walk, I know some growers will walk into a farmers market and they say, okay, well, we're charging today $4 per pound for tomatoes. Well, what if you can charge a little bit more, right? Because you have different certifications, you understand, you have a loyal uh, base of farm or customers, and they know how you grow. Or they know that you don't use pesticides or herbicides, and they know that you care about what goes into each crop. Understanding how each price varies for different crops, what's the minimum, and then understanding the maximum, it's going to be very important for growers to be successfully farming specialty crops. And that's all I have about the mistakes.
Those are really, really good. And especially, I was thinking as you were talking about the different businesses for things like orchards or U-picks or cut flowers, that's even a whole nother animal where you're getting into a business that's a service as well as the actual growing of the product. So that's really interesting. Um,
Yes.
this is, I think, the fourth episode of these profitability podcasts that we've had, and the recording of your labor seems to be a repetitive suggestion. We had one producer that talked about how he has a notebook and he just tries to write everything in there, not only for understanding your costs, but how can you streamline your labor or try to make that more efficient if you're not even sure what you're doing in the first place. So that's a really good suggestion that I think our listeners are going to see a theme between all of these episodes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And I think it's important to reinforce if different people are talking about the same thing from even different angles. Is a very good reinforcement of, hey, we might want to pay attention to this.
Absolutely. So let me just find my spot here. Can you speak a little bit about how the Hort calculator can serve different producers differently, either established farms looking to increase their profitability, or those new and beginning farmers that you were speaking about that you're trying to help them get off on the right foot?
Yeah, so for beginning farmers, we're very interested to into helping beginning farmers to start off with the right food. Um, One of the things that we think it's going to be important is if you're still not growing anything and you're considering a combination of a crop portfolio, the Hort calculator can help you understand, okay, for which ones should I go first? Beginning farmers face different challenge that farmers who are more experienced, for example, access to technologies, access to credit, access to markets, or even the know-how of different procedures, right? So having a report or an information about, I know if I'm going to grow this based on the technologies and the expenses and the yield, I know how much I should sell, right? So therefore, you set a specific targets for selling your produce. I know what is the minimum price I should sell for. It again tells you, okay, what is the pricing strategies and what are the different markets I need to target for my crops. It can also tell you, okay, I'm gonna need to invest something on this. It gives you a nice enterprise budget tailored specifically to your farm if you want to apply for loans. So it can help you communicate with your lender in a way that is going to increase the success of you getting a loan. And the last one, I think it's going to help you, it's understand what is the return on investment of doing this versus doing that. because it's a website. You can enter the data as many times. You can enter the website and create as many reports as you want, where you compare, okay, what if I grow lettuce versus arugula? What if I grow tomato versus radishes? So you can tailor things as many times as you want to understand which is a crop that I'm going to grow. So you're going to have correct and financially safe procedures for the operation that you're dreaming to have. For experienced growers, there's also a lot of benefits. And one of them is fine-tuning inputs for cost savings. When you know how much money you're spending on, let's say, variable costs are the type of costs that increase with your production. So the more you produce, the more you're going to spend money. And then you have your fixed costs, which are the expenses that you have to incur regardless on your level of production. Ideally, you're capitalizing and you're really leveraging your fixed costs. There's not much you can do with your variable costs because as you increase, they increase. But what you want is that greenhouse that you have, that tractor that you have, or that piece of equipment that you have. You want to you want to give as many turnovers for a crop as possible. So actually the expense of that fixed cost is the minimum for the crop, right? So that, and then we can understand also, okay, maybe I'm spending too much on labor, or maybe I'm spending too much on fertilizers, right? Because you also can track over time. Not only you can track per crop, you can track, hey, I was spending more on fertilizer 2 years ago. Great, I'm incorporating right now manure, my fertilization costs decrease. So that's going to give you an assessment and I would say a true assessment, but also more confidence that you're fine tuning your costs. And we're now in an economy that a lot of things are increasing price of inputs. So what we want is to be very, very conservative in the way we spend the money as a farmer, right? I think the other way that this tool can help experienced farmers is conducting experiments before the experiment occurs. So, for example, if you are deciding to invest right now, we have a lot of biological control. Biological control production is really interesting because it can be very important for consumers, especially young consumers that want no chemical, no pesticide, no herbicide in their food. You may get a price premium for that. But when you apply biocontrols, you're also investing in the biocontrol itself. You're investing in shipping and logistics. You're investing on labor, and you're hoping that all of it is going to make sense, right? You're hoping that all of it is going to be worth this. So understanding what the experiment of investing in biocontrol looks like before investing in biocontrol can give you more confidence of what you're getting into. For a lot of biocontrols that we've assessed, we've been conducting experiments with entomologists and plant pathologists and agronomists. And one of the experiments is like all biocontrols behave differently. So the return on investment and the benefit cost of every biocontrol differs by biocontrol or by agents, but also by crop. So what you want to understand is, okay, is let's say chrysoperla good for lettuce? And we find that for some systems, it is better. It is the best than Oreos insidiosus or the ladybug. So what we want to do is understand, okay, what if I get there before you get there? So it gives you confidence, but it also gives you more assurance that your investment is actually be more worth it. If you want to, let's say we have a lot of growers doing outdoor growing. The summer it's perfect for that in the Midwest. But what happens if you want to extend the growing season, right? We know that if you bring tomatoes, the first person that brings tomatoes to the farmer's market is going to get the highest price. So that's called the growing window or the market window. If you bring products at the end or at the beginning of the market window, you're going to get price premiums, right? So for that, we know a lot of growers who are investing in high tunnels, micro tunnels, even greenhouses. So you can assess, what if I do this? What is the impact of that on my production system? What is the impact of that on my profitability? What is the impact of that on my price? We know that when you invest on fixed costs or fixed assets, let's say a greenhouse, your profitability can increase as long as you produce more and you get a higher price, but also your costs increase. So there is a little balance that you have to handle where you're making more money, but you're also spending more money. How do you manage that risk? So that's kind of where the tool is going to help more experienced growers. And then lastly, you can plan strategically for scaling up and expansion, right? If you want to buy a piece of land, if you want to grow more, if you want to do more intensive crop rotations, we can help understanding how is that impacting my farm.
That's interesting. Allows farmers to see as best into the future as you really can, and before they make those large financial decisions. And so those are all wonderful benefits for all different farmers, but the Hort calculator has many other benefits, and I'm hoping we can go through a few, like the economic resilience and some of the profitability comparison and the investment when talking about IPM.
Yes. Yeah. So I think probably what we spend more time on is the IPM. Um, why? Because IPM has become a very standard practice for accessing consumers with produce that has lower pesticide, lower chemical, lower fungicide, etc. So IPM has been something that has been promoted over and over, not only from retailers, from wholesalers, processors, but also consumers want things like this. Any label that says 100% natural, which to be honest, I don't even know what that means, or it says chemical free. So those things are appealing. So how do farmers get into that? You kind of have to invest and you have to manage risk with that investment, which, that is on top of everything that you do as a grower. And you also have to do this. A lot of growers tell me it's like, and they also want that. So there's, unfortunately, the standards and the trends are changing all the time. So our goal is to say, okay, if you're going to invest on IPM, can you understand the economic impact of that IPM? So we have the benefit cost ratio, which is basically telling you if your costs are greater than your benefits, you should not get there. It's a very simple number. If your number is greater than this, after you enter all the information with or without assumptions, you better not get there. And then we have the return on investment, which is okay, if I invested $100, how much more money I'm going to make in my profits? So the benefit cost ratio, it's at the revenue level. So remember, I told you that farmers confuse revenue with profits. Let's not do that. So that's why we have two ratios. So the benefit cost is if I'm going to spend $100, what's going to be my revenue? And your revenue has to be higher than your cost, always. And we know that. The return investment tells you what is a profit associated with every dollar I invest on this IPM or integrated pest management. So those two metrics are going to help farmers understand, should I get there or should I not? And I think this ability to conduct experiments without getting into the experiment is going to be very important for assessing integrated pest management. Our idea is to expand these two ratios to other investments. So for example, if you want to buy a harvester, or if you want to buy a rototiller, or if you want to buy a greenhouse, those things can help you understand, or these ratios can help you understand, is it going to be worth it? We're also helping market access, because if you understand your pricing, so the thing about pricing or the thing about accessing a market is how much I'm going to sell it for. So markets are very price sensitive in a way that if you have a higher price, they're going to think, oh, she's or he's overcharging. But in some markets, having a price that is too low, consumers are going to think, well, is this even worth it? What's the quality of it? Why is it too cheap? So what we want to understand, and I'm very interested, is in helping growers understand the pricing strategies that they need to apply before they reach to the market, because that's going to lead them to have a greater market success entry. So Market access, we have a few lectures, and I'm giving a bunch of workshop conferences and presentations about pricing strategies, because the three things are the perfect triangle for a pricing, a very successful pricing strategy is one, the cost. What is the break even? And that comes from the Hort calculator, right? We tell you, okay, this is the minimum price. We call it the top, the price floor. It's a break even that the Hort calculator gives you. Then the highest, or the price ceiling, is what the consumers are willing to pay for. What's the value that you're giving consumers? That when they see your tomato, they're gonna think, oh, this is worth much more. And then the next one is the competitors. You need to understand how your competitors price others. Unfortunately, farmers, when they go into a new market, they tend to just focus on competitors. And we're missing the two critical aspects, which is the price ceiling and the price floor. Price floor is given by the Hort calculator, and price ceiling, I'm very interested to help farmers understand, hey, if you have this certification, if you have these good agricultural practices, if you're reaching this display, or if you have these tags or labels or these variety of products, your price ceiling may actually be higher. And then you play with it according to different markets. And potentially the last one is economic resilience. I think everything that I've told you today, which is a lot, sorry about that, is about let's make decisions that are informed, that are financially sound, that we can plan for, and then we can lower the risk to increase, I think, ultimately economic resilience. We want farmers to keep farming for a long time with multiple generations. So how do we help piece by piece, grant by grant, student by student to achieve that?
Absolutely. And it's all wonderful information, so please don't apologize. I'm really enjoying this. I have kind of a side question about the return on investment. How far does the Hort calculator look out on that? Are you looking a year, 5 years, 10 years in advance when you're trying to calculate
Mhm.
that?
So we're looking into the investment on a single crop. So on a single growth cycle. So let's say tomatoes, you may grow once a year. So since we do it by crop and by technology or by investments, we're looking into, okay, you're doing IPM for tomatoes for this year. Because next year you're gonna have to buy, unfortunately, new biocontrol. So every year for every crop. So if, let's say, a radish, you said biocontrol and radish grow really fast, radishes. So these biocontrol stays longer, then it's going to be for the whole time where the radishes are going to be grown. So if you get 3 to 4 cycles of radishes, it's going to be 3 to 4 cycles. It's a time where the crop is going to be grown, and also the which usually depends. Tomatoes one, radishes maybe many, depending on your farm strategy, that you're going to use that in integrated pest management.
I think I was thinking about bigger equipment that would be used for more than one season, but for the pest management, that certainly makes sense. Uh,
Yes.
To wrap up, I just have a few questions about. So now we told these South Dakota producers and maybe some others who are listening in about this wonderful tool. So, what has the response been and how do they use it? I guess my first question would be, how have you seen farmers respond to your program and the resources and the Hort calculator thus far?
So one thing that one of my goals with this tool is that I know that the summer is, well, spring and summer are really tough for farmers to attend and be attending webinars and Q&A. So one of my strategies is I'm also a teacher, so I teach a class on entrepreneurship. And one of the things that I also know is that people learn from in different ways. Some people need to read, some people need to watch a video. Me, for example, it's really hard for me to learn from a video. So I prefer webinars. So we have videos, we have webinars, we're going to have a guidebook, we're going to have the tool itself. I prefer to play with the tool and then make errors and then come back, and that's how I learn better. So my goal is to target different learning strategies or different learning methods, but also make it over time. There are going to be permanently on the web. or permanently hosted somewhere. So we have a website called Purdue Hort Business, where we're basically posting as things happen for farmers who are able and free to do so. But honestly, this is the busiest time of them. So we want to keep them stored. So we have a YouTube channel, Purdue Horticulture Business, where we're gonna post everything that we do. And I do have a website that hosts everything, including this project and other projects. And we have my team. We're constantly recording things and trying to post things that are going to be there for when farmers have time. Ideally, I think we're gonna see a lot of growth on attention in the winter or when the weather gets colder. But we also are collecting surveys. So every before and after every video or every webinar, farmers that are watching, they may think, oh my God, why are they asking these questions? Why? Because we want to understand what is the impact. Are we helping them in some way? And not only that, we want to also tailor things better to them. If we can do something better, please reach out and give us feedback. But also, if we want to get more grants to add more crops to this tool, we want to show funding agencies that we're doing a job that it's helping growers. So we have this surveys for many, many reasons. But basically, we have data on what is the impact of it. And we are asking before and after they watch a video or the webinar, how much they know about each topic that they were presenting. And we see that about 80% of attendees gather information. They won't go from no knowledge at all to moderate or I'm very knowledgeable. So we're seeing a lot of knowledge acquisition. We're also tracking all the viewers that we have. We have YouTube viewers are increasing. We're almost reaching 1,000 videos that they have watched, or 1,000 viewers, or 1,000 viewers that they've watched the videos on YouTube. We don't have the website. I haven't collected all the website. I'm waiting for everything to wrap up in August. So the next month we're gonna finish all the videos, and they're just gonna be there. We're not gonna take them off, but they're gonna be there. But for everybody to watch at any time, whenever they want, share it as many times as they want it. We're also seeing the participations on the Q&A also increasing. Usually registration is higher than attendance, but we have a good number of registration and attendance. And then we ask them questions again. We have, for every question that we ask, what is the knowledge gained for that question? And we have that some people, let's say one of the questions was confidence on financial ratio. That was webinar 3. So 77% of people who answered the survey said that they have no confidence whatsoever on financial ratios. And that went to 20% only. So we went from 27% had some knowledge to over 80% understanding what financial ratios. So we multiply the knowledge acquisition by 4. So I think that is very important for us to understand, okay, what are we doing good and what we're not doing good so we can tailor it better.
Those are really great survey responses. You just explained where kind of those hosted webinars can be found. Can you clarify the website for the tool for producers to utilize it?
So the tool, we're working on the beta version. We had to do some changes again because for us it's very important to tailor it and to validate it. So we are going to release it, the newest version, which this is July 2nd, I think in about 2 weeks. But they need to go to the Purdue Horticulture Business website. So if you just Google Purdue Hort Business or Purdue Horticulture Business, you're gonna be able to get it. So if I Google Purdue Hort Business, it's gonna take you to, I'm gonna read the website, but it's actually quite long. And it's https purdue.edu-hla-sites for business. And if you do that, or you can just Google it for the sake of it, you will see one of the main links is Hort Calculator. So that's on top of us. You click on that, you're gonna find the tool posted in 2 weeks. You're gonna find all the videos, all the webinars, and we're also gonna post there a guidebook. We have case studies. We're gonna have two scientific articles that are coming up. So it's a bunch of things to reinforce. How do people want to learn? Here is a way for you to learn.
Absolutely. And I'll link the website as well as your YouTube channel when I get this posted so people can find the resources that way.
Thank you.
If
Thank you. I
any,
appreciate that.
yeah, if anyone is interested in learning more, um, other than what we've talked about or other Purdue horticulture projects, do you have any social media or newsletters that they would be able to sign up for?
Yes, we have Facebook and Instagram. So Purdue Hort Business or Purdue Hort Biz is our handle. We're posting things about the webinars we're doing, the workshops we're creating, anything that comes out of my team. We're trying to post on the social media.
Great. Well, this was really wonderful information. So thank you again to Dr.
Thank you,
Torres
Morgan.
for
Thank you for
visiting.
the invitation.
Yeah, thank you for visiting, and thanks to our listeners for tuning in.